Thank you to AndrewAJT, our Patreon sponsor for this video, and thank you to all of my Patreon supporters. Hello everyone, my name is AndrewAJT, and today we're going to do some Normal Spellbook PKing. Now the reason I'm doing this is because the Normal Spellbook recently just got a huge buff because of one spell. The Entangle Spell now freezes for 15 seconds, or like 14.4, regardless of protection from magic. Previously, it would only freeze for around 7 through that, so it was basically impossible to Normal Spellbook PK at high levels, but now it is possible. It's still not that great. It's still much worse than Ice Barrage. Ice Barrage always freezes 20 regardless of prayer. Ice Barrage also deals a lot of damage, whereas Entangle barely deals any. But one thing that I do have in my favor here is that we're combining the Toxic Staff of the Dead, which is a very good melee weapon in and of itself, with a very high magic damage bonus, 17% with the cape and the staff. And with the charge spell, we can actually hit pretty damn high with Flames of Zamorak. So let's take a look. What can we hit here? Cast it there. 35. That's pretty damn good for Flames of Zamorak. So combined with its ability to lower their magic level, we're going to be hitting with a good amount of accuracy here. Of course, we have some melee and range with the staff and the crossbow, but the great thing about Normal Spellbook as well is we have the Teleblock spell, so I can pretty much PK anywhere I want in the wilderness, whereas with Ancients, unless you bring a Spellbook swap, you're pretty much screwed because anytime they get under 30 wild, they're going to teleport, and it really just limits the areas you could PK at, whereas with here, I'm free to go anywhere, and I have a good chance of PKing anyone. So let's take a look at the Callisto area, and on this world, Callisto is not here, so that tells me that Callisto is in one of the safe spots, and there's probably someone fighting him. So keep in mind, because I have had wrist surgery in the last few months, and I just really don't have a lot of experience with a Normal Spellbook, the execution in these clips are not going to be spotless, but I think I at least do a decent enough job keeping things together. So here we go, here's the first guy, and this guy is a Callisto safe spotter. Normally these guys are almost impossible to kill solo because they have that big Dinh's Bulwark. It has insane range and melee defense, and they're going to turn on the Prey Mage there, and normally they only have to make it a few wilderness levels here and they can teleport, but we of course have TB, and because of the Entangle buff I can actually bring the TB with me, and there we go. That is so awesome. The full 15 seconds there with the Entangle, and I actually have some time to deal some damage on this guy before he can run again. And the only thing is that his melee and range defense is so good that he might actually be able to tank out the TB, and especially if I don't get the full 5-minute one here, there's actually a very good chance of it. I didn't want to risk not getting the TB at all, so I just slapped it on the Prey Mage there. Ideally, I wait for him to switch off the prayers and then I TB, but 33 wild, I'm not going to take the risk. If you TB on any other prayer, it's 5 minutes. If you TB on Prey Mage, you have 2.5, so we're going to have to deal some damage quickly to this guy if we're going to take him down in 2.5 minutes, and sometimes these guys literally bring 10 or 12 brews. That's going to be really hard to do. Now, another thing that's actually a recent change that's in my advantage here is they actually just removed the magic defense from the Dinh's Bulwark. So it used to have like almost plus 20 magic defense. Now it has 0, so this guy actually does have a weakness, and that is magic. He can Prey Mage, which is a huge problem for me because I'm not going to hit those 35s. However, because he's in armor other than the D'hide body, his magic defense is actually not super high. So as bad as it looks, it's actually somewhat worth it for me to use the Flames of Zamorak on his Prey Mage, because even though it's not going to hit very high, maybe like a 20, it's still going to be pretty accurate and just kind of whittle his HP down to make him run out of food, which is my only hope here, that he doesn't have too much brews on him. And if he does have brews, keep in mind those lower his magic level. My spell is going to lower his magic level over and over, so even though he might be able to get that back with the restore, the accuracy for me is going to be pretty high. Now, one thing you may have already thought of is the fact that you do have that little 4-second or so grace period after you're unfrozen that you can run for a little bit without being refrozen. And normally with Barrage, that's not an issue because you can just keep barraging, and either way they'll get frozen eventually. But I have to decide here sometimes, do I want to Entangle or another Flames? But in this case, he's going to go down anyway from Venom, which is another big advantage I have. And oh my god, these guys risk a ton. Let's take a look at the loot. So in the looting bag, we have almost 1.2 million. That's pretty amazing. Revenant Ether, drops from Callisto like the logs and the snapdragon seeds, coins, all those restores, those things really add up, and this is already so profitable. So one thing that I haven't talked about yet is one huge disadvantage with the normal spellbook, and that is inventory space. Even with combination runes, I have to use 7 runes here, which even though I'm able to bail this PVMer out from this other PKer, I don't really have much of a good shot at fighting this guy because not only is Entangle so much weaker than Barrage, losing those inventory spaces which could be used for emergency brews, more food, tank gear, or just better gear in general is a huge disadvantage. This guy can throw the kitchen sink at me, whereas I can only bring like a few food, and I just don't have enough food to fight him. I could bring a rune pouch, but that only saves 2 squares itself and adds a lot more risk. If another thing changes with the normal spellbook, it should definitely be a way to have all these things without needing 7 runes. So always have to do some Scorpia PKing in a video. Very hard to find people here, but when you do, they are going to be pretty reluctant to turn on Prey Mage, so maybe that's a good opportunity for me to get the TB in. There we go, we see that 95 XP confirming the full TB, but it looks like we're not going to need the TB because as with most people here, they're wearing robes, so not going to have to really worry about a big chase here because the DDS will rip right through those. Unfortunately, it's just so hard to find people here these days. I don't know why. Scorpia is an amazing boss to duo. I think a lot of people don't realize that, but in the meantime, with the time it takes to hop worlds here, it can be quite difficult to find someone. One thing that's awesome though is another change. You can now slash webs with the Staff of the Dead, so you don't necessarily need another slash weapon. Before you couldn't, even though it's a slash weapon, which really made no sense to me. Another beneficial change. So I say this over and over, but people don't listen. The 2K worlds are not the safest places to do PVM at. In fact, they're usually quite the opposite because me and other PKers will usually check them first. There's some exceptions, like I think Venenatis is actually decent on the 2K world, but other than that, you pretty much want to avoid these places like the plague. One smart thing I did just there is I actually started running south even before I casted the Entangle on him, because even if the Entangle misses, I just want to stay close to him and give myself the best chance possible to not let him get a gap on me. And that's very important with Entangle because it seems like the animation is pretty long with Entangle. So if you start missing them or splashing them, they're going to have a lot of opportunities to get some space, as you saw there. I missed one, and now he's like super far away. I don't think that happens with Barrage. I think the Barrage animation is a little bit shorter, and it takes more barrages failed to really get a gap. I can't confirm that. I would have to do some testing, but it always has seemed that way to me. Let me know if you know more about that. So at first this guy ran into the lava or near it, kind of like the Terminator. I don't know why he would do that. And now he's going to go around it, and this is hopefully where I want to cut it off. There's really no escape route nearby, so I guess the fact that this guy was TB'd is the only reason why he tried to pick a bad escape route. So even though TB didn't directly help me here, it might have been the reason he picked an unconventional escape route, which is a pretty cool effect. So one thing I noticed about this clip is something we all do sometimes. Look at my blood rune count on the bottom right. I have over 12,000 of them. Whoops, good thing I didn't die there. But believe it or not, this guy made a pretty similar mistake. He has 100 house tabs on him and way too many astral and death runes if you want to be specific, so pretty good 300k loot there. Believe it or not, later on, I wasn't searching for this guy specifically or anything, but I actually found him again on a 2k world, and I managed to PK him again. This time only 5 house tabs, but pretty decent 250k loot. There's an old saying that you should never go AFK in the wilderness, and some people take this to heart quite literally. So again, we know Callisto is at one of the safe spots here, and as long as I get this guy quick enough, I should be able to PK him. But watch how quick this guy reacts. So he's not going to be in the north safe spot, he's going to be in the south one. You'll see the white dot, but look how quick this guy is gone. Get the Entangle ready, and he is gone. I didn't even get to see him. Wow, that's pretty incredible. Oh, and by the way, I'm sure people will ask, so I do have these little screen markers over the spells I need, and these are a feature in RuneLite over here, which I'm not sponsored by. I find these pretty helpful because the location of the spells can change quite drastically based on your setup and your runes, so having these little green markers is really nice, especially because we don't have that update that mobile has yet, where the spells actually increase in size. This gives you a nice little marker. So another great place for TB is, of course, the Venenatis area, and luckily I get the TB on this guy right before the prayer comes up. especially because most people here are going to be playing mage anyway because of the boss. You have to have pretty good timing to get that TB in. This guy was a fan of my videos, which I've talked about in the past is awesome, but it doesn't necessarily mean I can just let you go. It's nothing personal, of course, PKing you, it's just me playing the game with you. One thing I will tell this guy, though, is what he should have done is he should have just ran west here, or actually east into the green dragons, and if he had done that while playing mage and just kind of boxing the green dragons for a little bit, it would have been nearly impossible for me to PK him because it would have been single combat and there's basically no way to get all those green dragons off him, and he would have had a very easy time tanking that TB. Unfortunately for him, he ran south, which is just more multi-combat, and there's really no great hope of escaping unless he can just get to the wilderness border, which seems to be his plan. Another great thing about the TB is just that I can PK in these weird areas now more than I was able to in the past. I mean, when do you ever see people PKing here around the hill giants in 17 wild? Almost never, because you can just teleport. Technically, before the update, I could have brought a mage cape and done the same thing, but that's a lot of inventory space, and you can only do it a few times a day. Or I could have brought a team with a TBer, but that's a little bit excessive for this low wild, and I do like using the god spells because I think they are a lot of fun. This guy almost got away a couple times because it really does seem like the Entangle splashes are a lot more costly, but I did manage to pin him down here, and just going to use the alternating melee and mage attacks to mix up his prayers, and there we go. We got the Revenant Ether. Let's see how much we got. 850k, very good loot. Definitely a PK that would have been almost impossible using just Ice Barrage. So I did a poll yesterday, and it's still going, but so far 60% of people said they found Normal Spellbook PKing more entertaining to watch than Ancients, which is really awesome. So please leave a like if you enjoyed this video to let me know that you enjoyed the bit of variety I showed in this video. Really awesome update, and I had so much fun doing this PKing with the new Entangle spell. Of course, it's not perfect because there are some issues like with the inventory space and the spell being still a little bit weak and a little bit slow to cast, but very big change and very, very good one for the variety of PKing in the wilderness, just as I suspected. Let me know if you have any ideas for normal spellbook PKing setups or locations or any little strategies. There's really been a whole world of opportunities that have opened up for solo PKers like me with this change that only changes 7 seconds of a spell, but it's really a huge deal. It's all in good fun, and I really enjoy finding new ways to PK. Please subscribe if you haven't already and hit the notification bell to get notifications whenever I do upload, typically every Tuesday. It's really worth doing that. I'm not one of those people who's going to spam your notification box with 6 uploads a day like some people might. So it's really worth having those notifications on. You can follow me on Twitter down below at AndrewAJT, and I'll follow you back if you play RS. You can join our clan chat and game AndrewAJT62. That'll be up on screen. You can also join our clan Discord down below, which we do have a PKing channel in, so you're welcome to start any PKing or even bossing trips that you want to in both the clan chat and the Discord, and you can invite your friends as well. And lastly, if you want to support the channel even further, you can check out my Patreon page in the end screen. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next video. Take care, everyone.